Okay, guys, so for our last topic of the day, we're going to be talking about some console wars, and we're going to also just talk about the recent announcement that happened, that being the PlayStation 5 officially being announced and not much being revealed other than the logo. And we're going to be talking on the flip side of that, the Xbox Series X, and our thoughts on who wins the next generation of consoles. Not really going to be talking much about the Nintendo side of things, even though the Nintendo, of course, they do a phenomenal job as far as selling and marketing their product as well. But there's always been this tension, this kind of weird type of Star Wars versus Star Trek type of mentality between you kind of have to pick a side. You're either an Xbox guy or you're a PlayStation guy. You're a Star Wars girl or you're a Star Trek girl, right? You're kind of one or the other, and the other side just kind of hates the other. Now, I think things over time it's kind of calmed down a little bit. People, just in general, consumers, myself included, and I know Frankie's the same way, we own multiple consoles. We own the Xbox and the PlayStation and the Switch, and basically just own everything, right? That doesn't mean, though, that we don't have our preferences. That also doesn't mean that we don't know the facts. And when we bring up the facts, we know that up to this point, the PlayStation, pretty much, I would say since probably the PS3, maybe even the PS2, but definitely the PS3, has significantly outsold that of the Xbox consoles. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that the Xbox console is inferior. That also doesn't mean that the PlayStation is really that much better. But what we will talk about here is who's going to win this next generation. Because up to this point, PlayStation has been pretty dominant when we talk about the PlayStation versus Xbox war that's been going on. Even though both sides, Microsoft and Sony, have a lot of respect, obviously, for one another, I have reason to believe that there might be a change in what's happening from what we're seeing. It's kind of like that eye test. And when I use my eye test on the Xbox Series X at this very moment, obviously we haven't seen much on the PlayStation 5. Just leaked images and a lot of memes on it. But other than that, really haven't seen much, guys, from the PlayStation side of things. So this is somewhat premature that we're talking about who's going to win the next generation. But I never think it's actually too early because holiday 2020 is right around the corner when you really think about it. That being said, though, Xbox Series X and the reasons in which I believe that there's a possibility that it could reclaim, or I guess you could say it could claim the throne against PlayStation, is for a couple of reasons. And it even goes down to the design of the console. If the design of the PlayStation 5 is what has been revealed to us through leaks, and it looks like, okay, let's kind of go back here, right? When we think about PlayStation, we think about Xbox, right? The 360, the PlayStation 3, PS4, then you had, of course, the Xbox One. Xbox has a very clean look to it. PlayStation has had, over the course of time, it looks relatively similar to one another, and they also kind of seem more of like a, not like a play toy, but kind of like a, just a little bit different. Not as slick, not as clean of a design. The PlayStation, however, though, has had features about it that are really great. But the Xbox, when we talk about just the design of it, Xbox, and I have a prediction that I'll make right here on the Ape Below show, that the Xbox is making a significant approach, and they are taking a serious look at competing no longer with the PlayStation, but with PCs in the future. Now, I have a theory, guys, that the Xbox, and maybe even the PlayStation, at some point or another, we're going to be able to customize them to how we want, like you can a PC. Just look at what the Xbox looks like. The Xbox Series X looks like a tower. It looks like a computer, okay? And when you look at that and you look at the design, they're taking a more professional approach than that of the PlayStation. Now, we haven't seen the images of the PlayStation 5 as of yet. We've only seen leaked images. So that's what I'm going based on right now. But the Series X, obviously the specs and things of that nature, they're not there yet against a PC because you can customize the PC. But when is it going to happen that we can customize our own Xbox? We can buy that Xbox Series X or whatever it is, and we can customize those things ourselves to compete with that of a PC. I'm telling you it's coming, and it's closer than you think. I made a video talking about the console versus PC war is closer than you think, because you got a company in Microsoft. They're making an aggressive approach to compete against PCs. They really are. And it may not seem like it. Some of the specs, they're not quite there yet. The frame rates and all of those. But really, I don't think that this next generation of console, war, I feel like Xbox is going long-term on this. Like they're trying to win the long-term war, whereas PlayStation may very well be trying to win the battle, which is going to be coming up here in 2020. That being said, though, I do think that PlayStation, there's a number of reasons why I believe that PlayStation has kind of outsold the Xbox. And I said this, I've said this before, that PlayStation, when everyone else was, when we were picking between Xbox and PlayStation, lots of people just picked, right? You kind of just picked which one you wanted to get, and a lot of it was sometimes like the Xbox exclusives. Like for myself, when I got the original Xbox, I got Halo 1 and Halo 2. Those were only on Xbox, right? I remember PlayStation had Resistance, which was a game that was only on the PlayStation, and Killzone and Killzone 2 only on the PlayStation. And so you kind of had to pick and choose which console you wanted. I picked Xbox. I ended up getting a PlayStation eventually, but started with Xbox. And once you did that, you kind of realized that, and you kind of looked at the different, obviously you look at like specs, but you look at just how clean and how easy is it to kind of maneuver around everything, and what kind of exclusives are you getting, and there's a lot of that obviously that goes into it. But one thing that PlayStation had on Xbox was a free multiplayer experience. The Xbox experience was $9.99, I believe it was, per month, which wasn't like it was breaking the bank, but you still had to pay for it. I believe PlayStation built a huge following and a lot of people buying the PlayStation during this period of time, because I remember a lot of people that we used to play Xbox with that switched over because it was free to play, even though the Xbox Live experience was far superior to that of the PlayStation Network. Now skip ahead a couple of years, guys, and we basically have still the same type of ordeal, right? But everyone has their own feelings about the Xbox or the PlayStation. Not really like you're just picking and choosing. It's like, no, I've grown up with this. So there's a difference. Now, the PlayStation 5 is going to sell very well, and there's no debate about that. But Xbox is taking a very serious approach. I don't know if it was, 10 different studios that they bought out, and they now have the most exclusives that are going to be coming to Xbox ever, and they're working on a lot of those games right now. PlayStation, on the other hand, doesn't seem to have as many exclusives, not that much to show, skipping out on E3. There's a number of reasons why. Something tells me Xbox is really taking they're taking a grasp of their destiny and control of what they're trying to do. And so now they're going to E3, and with PlayStation not going, not that that's like that's going to make Xbox sell better, but it's more opportunity to show more people what's going to be coming out on Xbox. And the Xbox Game Pass, by the way, is brilliance. It's brilliance in the making because of a subscription service that you can download all these different games, Xbox exclusives or not Xbox exclusives, and download those games, and PlayStation still trying to catch up in areas like that. PlayStation still has great titles, Death Stranding, God of War, Spider-Man. They've got games coming up like Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2. Lots of great games. But when I compare it, Frankie, when I compare these these two consoles and the console generations that have been kind of leading up to where we are right now, I don't know. Like PlayStation has some great, exclusives, but Xbox got some pretty good ones too. And I know one that's going to be coming out later this year in the form of Halo, which people are saying that this is about to be a resurgence of the franchise. Not to mention we're having Gears of War, and they've already announced that Gears 6 and Gears 7 are going to be coming out at some point in the future. You've got all these other exclusives that are going to be coming out. What do you make of this console war that has been going on, the war, quote unquote, that's been going on now for a while? Did you grow up an Xbox person? Did you grow up a PlayStation person? How did you kind of pick or choose between which one you wanted, and what kind of made it just like what got you to like one of the consoles or another, and where do you think each console, like the direction they're heading in right now? Because maybe we're all missing something with PlayStation. Maybe they've got this massive plan, to somehow take over holiday 2020, whatever that might be. But what are your thoughts on it? What do you think between the Xbox Series X, the PS5, your history with the consoles up to this point, and where do you see this next fight going?
So I mean, I grew up with basically all of it. I mean, I played on the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, got Xbox, like you said, for Halo and Halo 2. And it's like you said with Xbox Live, it was just such a superior service. I mean, when I was playing Halo 2 on Xbox, there was basically nothing like it on PlayStation 2 or just anywhere else. To be honest, like that was the multiplayer like shooter that everyone played because I know there was a network adapter that I had for the PS2 to play like my ATV Off-Road Fury game on. But that was about it as far as online. And maybe I think I tried SOCOM, but it was just a real bad experience. Um, and yeah, then at that point they kind of both uh, had me hooked, and they both had exclusives that I kind of wanted to play, and I just kind of went with them. But it was the Xbox Live that kept me more on the Xbox side, and that's why I prefer Xbox. And I just think you talk about this current gen. Unfortunately, the leadership at Xbox, I don't think was there. I don't even think Microsoft was as all in on Xbox as it is today, and they just came out with the wrong messaging. They came out with a system that was not as powerful as the base PS4, and it took them so long to kind of work their way up to get some games out. And unfortunately, PlayStation just did everything right from the get go. First of all, they added all those kind of Xbox Live features that weren't available on PS3, right from the get go on PS4. And they just had all these hard hitting games, Last of Us, God of War, stuff like that. And unfortunately, you can't. It's so hard to compare their exclusives because Microsoft does kind of have that good, like, I am not going to say just good, great campaign, but also a very heavy multiplayer focus where you really don't get that on PlayStation. What first party PlayStation game am I going to go play multiplayer? Like, honestly, probably nothing. If I'm going to play something, it's going to be a third party Call of Duty or something. Where you look at Xbox, there is Halo, there is Gears of War, and I just think that they're two different things. And the other thing that people kind of overlook is PlayStation's been around longer. They have their foot in different regions like Japan where Xbox can't make it, and they have so many sales from all these different regions that really Xbox doesn't have a foothold in. And we've heard Phil Spencer talk multiple times about getting a studio like in Japan, and I really think that's going to be their biggest step towards maybe getting Xbox to grow bigger. Granted, they're doing tons of consumer-friendly stuff now. Like Game Pass, like you said, is so awesome. I mean, the fact that you can just, even if you just want to try some of their first-party games for a month. I mean, first of all, I can't remember the last time they haven't had the deal where you get like 3 months of Game Pass for $1. But even if it's full price and you have to pay $10 for a month, and you could go in that month and play all their first party games, I mean, that right there should influence people to buy it, just to get the experience of all those first party games. I mean, they are good. No, they're not these like epic single player, open world games like PlayStation has, but they are really good. So I don't know. I just think Xbox kind of stumbled, and now they're kind of back on track. And I think it's a semi even footing. The only thing is PlayStation does have such a huge install base, and I think it's going to be easier for people to be like, "Oh, I'm a PlayStation person. I play with most of my friends on PlayStation. Now I'm going to get PlayStation 5." And unfortunately, that might mean that Xbox kind of loses sales, but I think also for them, like looking forward, they're more into the services. They care that you're playing their games, whether that be on PC or Xbox, and then hopefully in the future, XCloud becomes a bigger thing that they can sell as a service, and hopefully get people who can't afford consoles but have good enough internet, can just buy their games digitally because they're still making money on it. So I think they just have different visions, but it remains to be seen just because we don't know all the specs and the price points. But I feel strongly that Xbox is not going to screw up the launch of this new console because they know they've learned their lessons. If anything, I think they're just going to be on par, if not a little better than what the PlayStation has to offer. Um, but yeah, it's going to be an exciting year,
Yeah,
and
no, I'm with you though. What you said about how, and it's so true. When you look at PlayStation, they've got great games, but a lot of it is just pretty much a campaign experience, a story experience, and they sold very well. Like we're not going to take anything away from that. God of War sold super well. Death Stranding sold really well. Spider-Man sold really well. I'm sure The Last of Us is going to sell really well, even though I think Last of Us might have multiplayer. But look, I don't know about you, Frankie, but for me, personally, when I go to buy a game, I like full packaged games. And when I say a full package, I like a game that's going to give me a campaign. It's going to give me a multiplayer. It's going to give me even other things like like if we talk about Call of Duty, like a Spec Ops or like a co-op modes or, zombies, horde mode, so on and so forth. Things that are going to bring you back to that game. I think it's such a disservice not to have multiplayer pretty much with any game because that's what brings people back to the game. Even though campaign, sure, there's going to be people who come back and play the game, a few times over. There's something about multiplayer. And something about having a full package deal, especially when we're talking about spending $60 on a game. You want to have a full experience, like just a full package experience. At least that's me, and I think I can speak for a lot of people that want a full package experience. That's what Xbox is giving you right now. I'm not saying PlayStation's not doing that, but at least their exclusives are, they've got a different vision for what they want to do with that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but Xbox has taken a really aggressive approach here with the multiple studios that they bought out, the talks of multiple other games that are being greenlit, like, a new Fable and just, all these different games. Halo Infinite coming out later this year. People are saying that this is a real resurgence for that franchise. People who are close to the project are seeing that. Like, I think it's going to be closer than people think. I do. And I agree with you when, something that people don't realize is that, yes, Sony has a big following elsewhere in other parts of the world where Xbox, even though it's Microsoft, you would think that they would be all over the place, but they're not so much. I think Xbox is trying to figure it out, though. And Xbox Game Pass is definitely a step in the right direction. And I think that there's a multitude of other things that are going to help Xbox to compete. And I think it's closer than you think, guys. But of course, once the PlayStation 5 specs and things of that nature come out, I'll keep you guys all updated as far as when that information is revealed. And that being said, though, guys, I want to pass it on to all of you. Who's going to win this next generation console? Do you think it's going to be the PlayStation 5, or do you think it's going to be the Xbox Series X? And which console do you like more? And what do you guys think about that? Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to have a conversation about it.